Welcome back to Left Seat Club. Today we're going to talk about some aviation opportunities. Specifically, we're going to talk about passenger, charter, and cargo airlines. So, what's your why? I feel like this is a question anyone pursuing the field of aviation should ask themselves. What's your reason for spending your time and money on learning to fly? Of course, everyone wants a job that's financially rewarding and they want to be financially stable, and all that's great. But there's a difference between pursuing an occupation for the check that comes with it and working towards something that you're actually passionate about and something that you love doing. Because when things get hard and things get tough, having a strong foundation and having a strong why will decide if you break or bend in those difficult situations. The growing demand. So within the next 3 to 5 years, there's going to be another huge demand for pilots in the aviation industry. Before the pandemic, the industry was seeing record-breaking numbers in revenue and flights per year. Since the pandemic, more than 78% of flights have been grounded. As a result, many of these pilots have taken early retirement, hundreds have been laid off, others are aging out due to the mandatory retirement age of 65, and then there's a small percentage of pilots who've lost their medicals. So there's always going to be a cycle of new pilots entering the aviation industry. In 2019, pilots earned an annual income range of $43,000 to $350,000 a year. And then the median airline pilot salary is $175,000 a year. So what this means is that half of the pilots earn less than $175,000 a year, and then the other half earned more than that $175,000 a year. So how are these salaries calculated? So an airline pilot salary is, they get paid similar to any other hourly job. They get paid for the time that they're actually flying the aircraft. So from the second they get in the aircraft, from the time they get out, they're getting paid. However, due to CFR 121-481, pilots can work no more than 1,000 hours a year. So that is just a FAA regulation to, ensure pilots don't overwork themselves. And because flying an aircraft and operating an airplane is a demanding job, and pilots need to be aware and mentally clear every time they're operating the aircraft. And then the number of years that the pilot has worked with that airline affects the hourly rate. So let's say I just started working with the airline, and then you've been working with that airline for 7 years. You're going to get paid more than me because you have more seniority. You've been there longer. So the longer you're with a company, the more you're going to get paid by the hour. Your previous experience before your airline job also plays a role into how much you're getting paid. The airline that you get hired on is also a big factor in how much you get paid. And then lastly, the type of aircraft that you fly all affect the amount of money that you get paid by the hour. So the starting pay. So regional airlines, you can think of them as like the little brother of the majors. So these regionals have smaller aircraft. They fly shorter routes. To qualify for these regionals, you have to have that 1,500-hour ATP requirement. So you just need to fly for 1,500 hours, and then you'll be eligible to get your airline transport pilot license. But this is where the importance of the Part 61 and the Part 141 school comes into play. If you don't know much about that, you can go back to our first episode. We talk more about that in that. A common route these pilots do take to qualify for these regionals is becoming a CFI. So a CFI is a certified flight instructor, and the cool thing about becoming a CFI is you don't have to pay for your aircraft rentals. You get paid to fly, and most importantly, you can log the flight time that counts towards that 1,500-hour requirement. So it usually takes pilots about 1 to 2 years before they have enough hours to qualify for these regional jobs. Once you make it to the regionals, you can expect to make around $30 to $70 per hour as a first officer regional airline pilot. The starting pay of these regionals tends to be, lower at first because the aviation industry, specifically the airlines, they respect seniority. So you got to remember you're at the bottom of the totem pole now. So, you're not going to be respected as much, so you're not going to be paid as much. Also, these regionals are investing in you. You know, they're paying for your training and your type rating. So you're coming from flying a single to maybe a multi-engine airplane, um, to now flying turbojet engines. So that's a huge difference. And not only that, you're representing a company now, and most importantly, you're carrying multiple passengers a day. So at the end of the day, these businesses aren't going to pay you if you aren't ready for the job, but that's not to say that they won't and they're unable to pay. So here's a little graph for the regional airline first officer salaries. This is taken from 2020. You can see it's fairly low at first, but after time on the job and experience in the aircraft, first officers are promoted to captain. So as a captain of a regional aircraft, your responsibilities increase. You know, you're the final authority. You're the PIC of the aircraft and its passengers. With the increased responsibility comes, the increase in pay. So you can see in this table right here that the pay isn't the best, but it's not the worst. So we'll take a look at the captain salaries, and then you can see how much it's increased already from the year 1 to year 6 and year 12. So you can see that the pay increases with the more responsibility. So these regional airlines, they contribute 3 to 5% to your 401k, depending on the airline. So your 401k is a retirement plan for those who don't know. If your end goal is to make it to the majors, going through the regionals is a great route. Since these regionals, they lose a lot of pilots every year due to them transitioning to the majors. They're now offering really high and generous signing bonuses. I've even read of some, upwards of $25,000, which is crazy. They're doing this to try to retain every pilot they can for longer. So definitely leverage your position once you get to those interviews. So now onto the major airlines. After about 2 to 5 years of being a regional airline captain, you'll have the opportunity to transition to the majors. The majors offer better pay, better benefits, and the opportunity to fly bigger and faster aircraft. So some of the requirements to be eligible for the airlines, you need to be 23 years old, at least 23 years old, commercially certified, instrument rated, that 1,500-hour ATP rule, like we talked about. And then you got to have 50 hours of multi-time. And then there's one other one that's not necessarily mandatory, but it definitely helps out a lot if your end goal is to become make captain one day, and that's a bachelor's degree. It's not, like we said before, it's not mandatory, but having one is highly recommended. The degree does not need to be, like science or engineering focused, but the degree can be any field of study, honestly. So let's take a look at some of these first officers' pay in the major airlines. So these first officer, salaries, they're way higher than what you seen at the regional side of the chart that we looked at before. One cool thing here on the Emirates, it's in the middle in the red. It's pretty low compared to the other ones, especially in your year 6 and year 12, but that's because they're paying for your housing. So the airline is located in Dubai, and they're always looking for pilots, qualified pilots in America. So as an incentive, the airline will pay for you to relocate and live in Dubai, along with a monthly stipend and some other benefits, which I thought was pretty cool. And here are the major airlines captain salaries. You can obviously see right here it's they're really like they have the ability to give you more money. Like you can see Delta right here in their first year, they're giving you almost $300,000 your first year as a captain, and then in your year 12 they're giving you $353,000. So obviously you can see it's financially rewarding. Some captains are earning close to $300,000 a year in their year 6 on the job, and it's crazy to see how much they're earning. But at the same time, these captains are they're seasoned vets. They've seen everything. They're ready for every situation and prepared for nearly every situation imaginable. So they definitely earn their money. the minimum daily guarantee. Most of the airlines in the chart showed they guarantee their pilots at least 75 to 80 hours of loggable time a month. So even working that 80 hours a month, the pilots still have an opportunity to work 40 hours of overtime before reaching their 1,000-hour FAA mandatory limit. Pilots can double, sometimes even triple their rate, their hourly rate of pay when working overtime. Another thing, pilots, many people think pilots, all they do is fly, but they do have to perform some ground duties, whether that be simulator time or flight planning, some pre-flight inspections. It's just little things here and there. One thing that is pretty important when picking a job and interviewing at different airlines and stuff when the time comes, if you choose to do so, is profit sharing. So simply put, profit sharing is when the company you work for gives you, the employee, a percentage in the profits of the company based on the quarterly and annual earnings. So so based on the quarterly and annual earnings. So depending on how well the company does in that amount of time, you'll be seeing some of the money that they receive too. So charter airlines. So charter flying is flying for individuals, organizations, businesses, and even some foreign governments. So at its core, it's really just getting it's really about getting people or their property to the destination on their terms. So the client chooses the destination, how long you'll be there, and who or what goes on the plane, as long as it's legal, obviously. So many times these pilots are flying millionaires on their vacations or CEOs to business meetings. Some benefits of charter flying: you'll see the world. You'll see the world. You'll visit lots of different places, and you're paid pretty well. Like we'll take a look at this graph right here. In your ignore Miami International. They actually went bankrupt last year, so ignore that middle one. But the first one and the third one, they're still operational. So anyways. So we'll take a look at the first year one. You're almost getting paid $200,000 in your first year, as a charter pilot, which is crazy. So that's a benefit. You'll see the world. You'll get paid. Really well. But on the downside, these charter pilots are on call. They got to be ready to leave on a minute's notice. And lastly, these charter pilots fly different routes, to different locations nearly every day. So it can be more stressful because you're flying into airports that you may not be familiar with. And we'll take a look at the cargo pilots, which, self-explanatory. They fly cargo, and they fly, similar routes to the airlines, but they mainly fly at night. They have more time off, and they do require the same training and the same skills. You need to be commercially certified, instrument rated, have your ATP, and your multi-engine. That's what you'll have to have for nearly every other airline job, so it's nothing different. Captains do need to have 500 hours of PIC time before they can be, eligible for that captain position as a cargo airline. And then they need to have 5,000 hours of total time. And then their salary is calculated just like any other airline pilot. Then, like we said, they fly mostly at night. They do have more time off, but that's mainly because they're flying longer and, like deeper into the week. And pilots do need to have 10 hours of sleep before they can work the next day. And then one thing I thought was kind of funny is since these cargo pilots, they don't get, free travel like a passenger like a airline pilot might, like the majors or the regionals, but they do receive discounted shipping, which is kind of funny. So if you're not necessarily a people person and don't mind working at night, cargo aviation might be for you. So here we'll look at this graph of the first officer salaries. Specifically, we'll look at this UPS and FedEx. In year one, you'll see for FedEx it's $81,000. Then in year 6, it jumps to $204,000. Year 12, $235,000, and then UPS is similar. So these companies, they're prepared to pay you. They have the means to pay you. It's just like we said before, they respect that seniority. So that's a big thing that you need to remember. So don't get discouraged if you're working and you're like, why am I not making as much money as someone else? Well, it's all about seniority. So we'll take a look at the captain's salary. We'll also take a look at the we'll look at the FedEx and UPS again, because these two are like well known. Not too many people know about Southern Air and these other ones. So FedEx, you'll see year one, 236,000, goes up to 314,000 in your year six, and year 12 you're getting paid $330,000. So cargo pilots make they have the opportunity and the chance to make just as much money, if not more, than you know major and regional airline pilots. So in conclusion, I don't want this video to be too long. So I hope you found this video interesting and hopefully informative. Um, Aviation is, it's down bad right now. But that's not to say like it's not gonna recover at all. It's not the first time the aviation industry has been, hit. Even after, 9/11. People were afraid to fly, but you see it's recovered. So the aviation industry will definitely recover from the pandemic. So it's not a matter of how, it's just when at this point. So if aviation is something you want to do, it's not impossible at all. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know the flight training is expensive and it's hard work, but this field is financially rewarding, to say the least, and it's personally, rewarding too at the same time. I think, yeah. And then, like we said before, there's always going to be that cycle of new pilots entering the industry, and new pilot positions always available. So why can't that new pilot be you? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that we're done with the video. Yeah, go follow Left Seat Club on Twitter and Instagram, and if you like the video, and subscribe to our channel.